Can black seed oil cure HIV? Hey, I'm Joe Cannon from supplementclarity.com, and this is a research update. I had previously done a video on HIV being eradicated by black seed oil, and I was doing some more research, and I uncovered two other investigations that have shown black seed oil mixed with honey in a concoction can significantly reduce HIV viral load, improve immune parameters, etc. So this video is going to go a little bit longer than others because I want to talk about these other investigations and also, again, like before, give you the pluses and the minuses in the hopes that you will take this information to your doctor and see if this is right for you. Okay, so let's just jump right into it, okay? So here's the original study that I covered in the previous video. Nigella sativa concoction induced sustained seroreversion in HIV patient. Nigella sativa being the scientific word for black seeds. And essentially this was an investigation of a 46-year-old guy in Nigeria. He had AIDS. He was showing symptoms of AIDS. Basically, they give him black seeds for a short period of time, 4 months, and they literally say he's cured. They literally call this man the ex-HIV patient, okay? So they make some pretty bold claims in this, but essentially he apparently is still walking around AIDS-free, HIV-free, cannot detect any HIV in his system. Now, this is really a study of only one guy, and again, I'll say go back and look at my original video where I go in more in-depth on this, but I'm going to leave this study alone because it's really only of one guy and I already have a video on it. I want to focus the remainder of this video on the other investigations and help you make sense of them, okay? So here we go. Here's the next study, and it is called Effectiveness of an Herbal Remedy in 6 HIV Patients in Nigeria. Again, this is a larger study. It involves 6 people, not just one. I will point out that the people who did this study, the main researchers, A.A. Onafade and A.P. Jewell, they are the same people as you see here in the original study. Again, A.A. Onafade and Andrew Paul Jewell, A.P. Jewell, okay? So essentially, here we go. We got 6 people, and I just cut to the chase with this. They say, as you can see on the screen, the symptoms and signs associated with HIV infection disappeared within 20 days of commencement of herbal therapy. The herbal therapy being the exact same thing as you saw in the previous investigation with that one guy. It is a combination of black seed oil, 60% black seed oil and 40% honey. They call that the black seed oil concoction. In this study, they have changed that name, and I want to point this out to you in case you're doing your own research. They are now calling the black seed oil concoction alpha-zam, and as you can see, I've highlighted it here in yellow. As you can see my little pointer going over it, A-zam, A for alpha, alpha-zam. That's the same thing as the black seed oil concoction. Again, 20 days after they start doing this, they've got no HIV infection. They can't find any HIV in their systems. Their symptoms get better. Their weight goes up. Very, very impressive. Again, it's 6 people, so a little bit better than the other study. Let's see what the next study shows. Again, this next study is by the same 2 lead researchers, A.A. Onafide and A.P. Jewell, and here we go. Virologic and immunologic outcomes of treatment of HIV infection with an herbal concoction, A-zam, among clients seeking herbal remedies in Nigeria. So again, we're looking at a bunch of people in Nigeria. How much? They say 51 people, 51 men and women who had various degrees of HIV infection were treated with this herbal concoction, again, which they're now calling alpha-zam. Again, that's just a combination of black seed oil and honey. So let's talk a little bit more in depth about this and their results. Okay, so in a nutshell, here's what the study took place and what it was all about. 51 men and women, again, they have various degrees of HIV infection, some just infected, not showing symptoms, and in stage 4, which is, again, the worst of the worst, they got basically full-blown AIDS. I'd like to point out that 6 people of these so-called 51 men and women that they mentioned were taking HIV medications. In other words, most people were not taking HIV meds, okay? Now, everybody in this investigation was instructed to take 1 tablespoon 3 times a day of this again, alpha-zam herbal concoction of essentially black seed oil and honey, 60% black seed oil, 40% honey. It was a freshly made preparation, so it apparently was not something that sat on the shelf for 6 months or so. I think that might be important. They also said in this investigation they diluted this concoction, this mixture, if you will, in 1 ounce of warm water. That's something that was not brought up in the original investigation. They didn't mention any warm water that I noted. So I'm not sure how significant that is. They dropped the dosage to only 5 milliliters for the children that were in this study. Again, unfortunately, there were 3 children who had AIDS and HIV, and they were in this study. They were between 7, 8, and 10 years of age. They also, and that's probably because of smaller body size, they probably decreased the doses for that. They also mentioned that people took this before food, but they do not mention how long before food. Is it 15 minutes, an hour, or half an hour? They don't mention that. And people actually had their viral load or CD4s blood tested, etc., before and after the study was over. And what do they show? So in a nutshell, here are the results, and I just quote them on the first point. All signs and symptoms associated with HIV infection presented by all patients in this study fully subsided within 3 weeks after commencement of the herbal concoction. Within 3 minutes, or 3 weeks, they're all better, according to these researchers. Going down the next bullet point, all groups showed significant improvements in CD4 counts, CD4 being the immune system cells that are usually decimated with HIV infection. So they all showed improvements in immune function. Viral load, how much HIV was inside of them, viral load decreased significantly in many of these patients. Again, that's important, but not all of them showed significant drops in viral load, but most of them did, as you'll soon see. And they also noted no side effects with HIV meds. Remember, 6 of these individuals were actually taking HIV meds. So they didn't notice any interaction. That said, I do think it's important to mention if you're taking black seed oil to your pharmacist and your doctor, because we do know that black seed oil can interfere or interact, if you will, with an enzyme involved in drug metabolism. It's called the P450 enzyme. And if you say P450 to any pharmacist or doctor, they'll know exactly what you're talking about. There is some evidence that black seed oil can interact with that, and that could interfere with drug metabolism. Again, perhaps AIDS drugs as well. So again, always talk to your doctor if you're taking black seed oil, if you're taking medications. Okay. Now, there are several tables in this particular study, and I'm throwing a couple of them out that I thought were interesting. Again, they broke them down into stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. Stage 1 being you're infected but not really showing symptoms. Stage 4 is the worst of the worst. So let's look at stage 3. Stage 3 HIV infection is essentially you're infected and you are showing pretty significant symptoms. And if we look at this particular table, you see in the beginning, pre-treatment CD4 pretty low, say in this person of 240, viral load 46,000. Post-treatment, you see the CD4 went up and viral load is undetectable. And notice the trend, undetectable, undetectable, undetectable. And you see this basically for most of the people here, okay? And that's in stage 3. That's a pretty significant stage of HIV infection. Let's look at stage 4, which is the worst of the worst. Again, viral load pretty low, say in the 130s, 140s, 190s, 170s, CD4 count, viral load 49,000, 52, 51. Post-treatment, you see that the CD4 jumps 820, 760, 750, 780, and viral load undetectable, undetectable, undetectable. It drops down to 500, 1,000, less than 1,000. So you see pretty significant changes in pretty much everybody, but I wanted to point this out because stage 3 and stage 4 are much worse than the first 2 stages. So again, this is worth pointing out to people. It's very interesting, and as is this little pie chart that you see here. This is again a summary of everybody who was taking the alpha-zam black seed oil concoction, and you can see in the blue represents everybody whose viral load was undetectable, and that's the majority of the people in this study. Okay, and again, others went down to less than 500 viral copies, less than 100 viral copies, but the majority of them undetectable. They could not detect the presence of the virus in their systems. Okay. So again, looking at this study, there's a few things I want to point out to you because again, I want to be totally upfront and honest with you and help you make sense of this research because I don't know if many individuals do that. So what I'd say is the study mentions 51 people. I counted everybody in these tables. I only counted 45 people. So I'm not sure what happened to those other 6 people. The researchers do not mention if anybody dropped out. Okay, this is actually point number 2, where they don't give me a breakdown of the subjects' ages and weights and stuff like that. They don't point that out. Having looked at a lot of clinical studies over the years, usually when you read these things, the researchers go out of their way to tell you every little minute detail of everything that went on. And these omissions of these little details like this, again, these are things that I say to myself, why didn't they tell me this? Why didn't they tell me that? And did they just miss them? And again, there's one of the little voices in my head says, what else might they have missed? Again, I don't know. I wasn't there. It's just something that just jumps out at me. I'm used to seeing very detailed things. And when I see little things just left out, it just kind of makes me wonder. Most of the people did not have full-blown AIDS, and I bring this up in case anybody is looking at the statistics. Again, the majority of people weren't in stage 4 of HIV infection, so that may play a role in the outcome of the statistics for the researchers reading this. The researchers also mentioned that alpha-zam black seed oil concoction, quote, significantly decreased the viral load to undetectable levels in many patients in this study. Notice they did not say everybody's level went to undetectable levels. And you saw that in that previous pie chart that I just showed you. Some people's levels went down significantly, but they could still detect a little bit of the virus in them. But again, majority of people, you couldn't find it anymore. There was no placebo group. Again, I personally would like to have seen a group that didn't get black seed oil. I kind of understand for ethical reasons why they might not do that, but the best kind of study would be a randomized placebo, double-blind placebo-controlled study. Hopefully one day that will be performed. And I also want to point out that you don't hear the words cure, seroreversion, remission, and you definitely don't see the phrase ex-HIV patient as you did in the original investigation of one person. And I want to point that out because, there are people who may be talking about how great black seed oil is and stuff like that. They only really made these really grandiose statements in that very first investigation of that one guy. They're not really saying that anymore. And I kind of appreciate that because I really don't like big grandiose statements in scientific studies. Let's keep it pure and not jump to conclusions here. So these are very interesting studies, and what I'll say is, if they are conducted by other researchers and if they are found to be valid, these guys deserve a Nobel Prize. There's no doubt about it. 3 investigations. You can throw out the first one because it's one guy, but this one in particular, 51 people. It's very interesting. I'm intrigued, definitely. I no longer think that this is a spontaneous remission. I'm highly curious to see what would happen if other researchers would look at black seed oil and HIV infection and see what might go on. Again, another thought is everybody here is in Nigeria. Hey, let's take it to South America. Let's take it to America and China and stuff like that, and Russia, and see if it works in other countries as well. Again, I'm just spitballing things out to you. Things that are occurring to me as I read these words. I really want to see a larger study with placebos done by other researchers. Again, nothing bad to these guys, but I think it's best when other researchers confirm things. And again, for the other researchers who may be looking at this, I'm actually quite surprised that I don't hear anybody talking about this, and I'm quite surprised I don't hear really anybody on the news and the newspapers talking about this either. Because again, if it is found to be true, this is definitely a game changer. So let's see what the future holds, guys. If you got any comments or questions, leave them below. I'm going to put a link to my blog post on this, which has all the links to the research and also my original black seed oil HIV concoction video as well. So enjoy your day. I'm Joe Cannon, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.